to remember to announce that again at the end in case some people get on late.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Ron. It's Saturday morning, 25th of May already. So year is flying by, seems like anyway to me. See if we have any questions. On last week, we spoke from Matthew chapter 19, and we started at verse 16, and we were looking at the heading in my Bible anyway that we know as the rich young ruler. But it's the young man that comes to Jesus and wants to know how he can get into the kingdom. And Jesus talks to him about a series of things, and what we were looking at here is not only does that describe man, but we were looking at it was an attempt anyway on my part to kind of look at the role of the sun, S-U-N, versus the son, S-O-N, and looking at what true enlightenment looks like and how that ties into who and where we are and where this journey has taken us.
Ron is frozen. But I'm thinking that, excuse me, he's picking up from where he left off the last time with the rich young ruler in relationship to Jesus being the S-O-N, but the true nature of it is the S-U-N. I see he's unfrozen now, so
Yeah.
I'll give it back to you, Ron.
Okay. Yeah, and I tell you what, I'm going to log off and get on my phone, okay? Because it's acting up. I apologize to you. I'm gonna get on my telephone. Guys, give me a minute or so.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just keep talking.
I think I have an approach to understanding the nature of the S-U-N versus the S-O-N. And I'm hoping that it will bring a great amount of clarity to our desires to understand the nature of both, and shall I say, the reality of one, and the fallacy of the other. So once Ron concludes, I'll guess to a place rather where he has presented his opening statement, then we'll go from there. Okay, thank you, Ron. I suppose he's not back yet. Go ahead, Nick.
He's still switching to his phone, I think.
Okay, thank you, sir. So anyway, are there any questions in regards to those statements? Because I would like for Ron to be back before I even start making an effort to make the correlation that I think I see there.
Yes, sir. I'm back. I didn't hear everything you said. The only thing I was going to add, Pastor, and I turn it back to you. One of the biggest things that I was trying to get across last week, that the relationship that melanin has with the sun, S-U-N, and how it activates it, and what that means, and the spirituality of that, not the physical stuff that goes with that, but the spirit part of it, and what melanin is and how that works. That's what I was trying to tie in, because that's the real essence of it. And I think that's the part that frees us from religion, frees us from looking at the S-O-N and sort of being captured by that. So thank you.
I think my attempt is to do this. to give a foundational look at the two, not necessarily comparing them head to head. If I would be most appreciative if once I started, if you see it, you can help me with it, please. What I see is if we were to take the life of Jesus in the scriptures and look at the journey and the things that are attributed to him in relationship to what the Son actually does, S-U-N, we will find that with the original meanings of words and looking at how the S-U-N function in Kemet, how they saw it rather as functioning in Kemet, the spiritual essence of it, as versus how Christianity created this entity called Jesus and gave it many of the same attributes of the S-U-N of Kemet. If the Son, the S-U-N, brings healing just as the S-O-N is said to have done. Light therapy brings healing to open wounds. And light also, the sunlight also purifies. And the sunlight, at the same time that it purifies, by destroying impurities, it brings life at the same time. So the sun is actually the source of life and death, but not death in the sense that we look at death. When you look at the resurrection on the cross of Jesus, what you actually see is that thing that they called the Roman cross was exported from Kemet. And it having been exported from Kemet became a tool of execution as opposed to being what it was intended to be from its inception, and that is a barren womb versus an open womb with what is known as the Ankh. This whole idea of the crucifixion of the Son, we talked about the S-U-N having traveled its course from the north to the south during the winter solstice and standing still for 3 days before it begins its trek back towards north, is the resurrection. So if we can go through the many attributes that have been attributed to Jesus and see how they were actually lifted from the writings of the priesthood in Kemet and manipulated to tell the story that would fit the narrative that Europeans intended to bring into existence for the express purpose of controlling humanity. Any questions or comments about that, Run? As you, since you were the one who started from the beginning and talking about this, can you see what I'm making every effort to see? To say, and any other, if there are any other comments or questions, I appreciate them.
Yes, sir. I do see exactly what you're saying, and it's spot on. This is maybe it takes off course just a little bit, but the symbol of the cross being the barrel. Can you go into that a little bit more? Just, and I know it kind of isn't where you were headed, but it just kind of caught my attention.
The Ankh. Let's start with it, because at the top of it is a circle, and protruding from each side of it is a straight line, and then a line at the bottom. Well, the phallus or the penis is represented by the bottom line of that Ankh, and the open womb is the circle at the top, testicles on each side. And when that circle is closed, the oval actually is what it is an oval, not a circle. When that oval is closed, it speaks to the idea of a barren womb, meaning that a woman has reached the age where she is where she does not where she cannot become impregnated, or a woman who does not what is barren to the point where she cannot have children, period. So that's what that represented. Now, the spiritual essence of that speaks to the barrenness of mankind as well as the production of mankind, saying that it takes both masculine and feminine energy in order to bring or to birth something into existence. And without that masculine and feminine energy being recognized, embraced, and utilized for the righteous purpose, then everything remains barren. And you say, well, what about now? All these other things are being produced. But if you really look at this thing, you will see that spiritually, the womb of this nation, the womb of Europeans, is barren, in that they only produce violence, and that is not the purpose of the womb, to bring into existence that kind of nature that is destructive to humanity. And the only in order to rectify that, the resurrection of the African understandings of spirituality must be brought into the narrative, brought into the conversation about what's happening now. And this is our purpose to do that. So what we're actually doing is rejuvenating the womb of humanity, so that truth can be birthed into the earth. We are opening what was a barren womb, a womb that was made barren by Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And with understanding, and let me say this for a second. If you do the research, you will find that the Quran was not written until the 1800s, 1890, I think it was. So these are Judaism and Islam are very, very fairly new religions, even though they have written themselves into history back to the what I think Islam is like the 400s, maybe 400 AD. But anyway, back to the question at hand. We are opening the womb of humanity so that it can produce life instead of stagnation, because stagnation brings about death, and violence always brings about stagnation. If you think about war, during the time of war, there is no progression at all. The only thing that moves forward in the times of war in terms of production is a perfection of implements of death. But economies, the only economies that move forward are the economies that produce instruments of death. Cultures are destroyed. Families are dismantled. Nations are colonized. And the advancement of people in different cultures is not only stagnated, is destroyed completely. So the ark and the cross speaks to more than just a physically barren womb or a physically active womb. I hope that that answers your question, Ron.
Yes, sir. It makes me wonder. That shows anyway that may not be a coincidence that the cross itself became a symbol of death, rather than what I think what they intended it to be, or thought it would be. So, do you see what I mean?
Oh, yes, I do. The cross itself was a symbol of death from the beginning, of course. And now what is being said, especially by Protestants, is that the empty cross is symbolic of life, the resurrection of the Son, Jesus, when that really is antithetical to what the cross in this present form represents. In Catholicism, what you see is that there is a continuation of this created Jesus being on the cross, which brings into play the pontiff, the Pope, the one who is a substitute for God in the earth, which means that this pontiff or this substitute for God takes the place of this created entity called Jesus, because Jesus is still dead, based on the symbolism of that body still being attached to the cross. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, this is Nick. In reference to the symbol of the cross always being one that was one of sort of conquering or death. It was not even used a symbol until after who's that general from Constantinople or something? I should look that up. But supposedly had that dream wherein he saw.
Constantine, wasn't it?
Oh, was that
Nick,
Constantine?
wasn't that Constantine who had that dream, saw it crossing the clouds?
Yes, that looks like a P with the X going through it. That was the beginning of the use of that symbol. So it didn't even look like the supposed T symbol that we see today. So the meaning that has been ascribed to it was changed over time in order to fit the narrative that the sort of Christian church wanted it to have. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask you a question. What Ron presented in terms of the SON and SUN, are you able to see with a greater clarity the reality of the SUN versus the creation of the SON? That's open to anyone.
One of the things I attempted to do, this was a truth when I talked about the relationship between trees and plant life with the sun, and what photosynthesis does, and what the leaves on the trees are used for, and how they never really die, they repurpose, and how the forest is fed throughout the winter months through that healthy tree that has all the nourishment stored up in it. I was trying to use that metaphorically to show that when you recognize who you are and you allow your meditations to be infused by the melanin in your body, and you become the nourishment not only for yourself in those times of need, but you become the nourishment of everyone else, and you become one with the sun. It is the no different than what we see in nature, and it is no coincidence either that one sort of mimics the other. And we how we take our cues out of understanding that principle, and allows us to be free. That's true freedom, and seeing that I am the Son. I am the one with the Son, and I bring enlightenment. I bring light. I change the energy. I change the vibrations in the earth by being one and recognizing who I am. That was the attempt anyway.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Evelyn. So what is it that the SUN, and I'm trying to get an understanding. So were we wrong to give credence to the SON instead of the SUN?
Your question, Evan?
You didn't hear me? I
Yeah,
can
I heard
repeat
you
it.
say, may I ask you one?
Oh, yes, sir.
Were you sincere?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, ask that question again based on you knowing that you were sincere in what you were doing. You see the difference? You were not manipulating anything. When you embraced the SON, it was because you truly believed that this was from our Creator. This is what our Creator expected of us. So you were doing it from a place of righteousness as opposed to a place of manipulation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that is,
That makes
that's all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello?
You're asking me, or you just saying everybody in general?
Well, more specifically, you, but yes, everyone in general, of course.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
This is a lot.
Yes, ma'am. I suppose what I'm trying to say is this, as we've said before, our parents did not deceive us. The deception lies in the ones who force it upon us. The sincerity of our hearts led us to understand or to believe or to embrace that there is no way in the world that our Creator could possibly justify slavery or racism. There's no way in the world that the Jesus that we were looking at could possibly be a part of that deception or that racism, etc. So, in essence, what we were talking about was the reality of the life giver, the preserver of humanity, which is actually the SUN. The things that we attributed to the Son that we were talking about are the same things that was attributed to the SUN in Kemet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Or any questions about that?
I got one more for right now. So when we see the sun, we're just to embrace what it's releasing, the life energy, because that's what I see it as. Yeah, so we're to embrace
What-
it, not to reverence it, but to embrace what it is.
Yes, and embracing, I don't mean by any means that we worship it, but
Mhm.
embracing it to me means that we understand the purpose of it, we understand the function of it. And we don't have to, overtly say, I embrace you for what you, that kind of thing. It is more of the understanding that, as you said, it is the source of life itself, and to understand that it is the source of all the energy that exists in this earth realm, especially. Also, to remind us that the solar flares that we experienced a couple of weeks ago, all that energy is still has not left the earth. It didn't come one day and leave the next. It just subsided, but there's a strong essence of it still in the earth. Also, keep this in mind: the energy from that solar flare will not ever be gone completely, because it was absorbed by humanity without humanity knowing it. It was absorbed by the earth itself. It was absorbed by us who realized what was happening, and the absorption of it remains with us. And the question becomes: Are we going to become a bit better today than we were yesterday? Are we going, or are we desiring to move beyond any apprehensions that we've had in the past in regards to our being able to conquer the ills of this earth and bring into existence a balanced life for everyone? Are we going to allow this energy to guide us by way of our ancestors, so that our eye will remain open and our eyes will not entertain what we see on the news, or not even our ears won't entertain what we hear on the news, but will only entertain the voices of the ancestors, and the energy of strength and power, love and kindness, mercy and forgiveness. These are this is the way, rather, we embrace the essence of the sun that was given to us for life energy. So the question is, how are we going to deal with it? Are we going to be submissive to the desires of our Creator, and the desires of our Creator being for us to embrace this life energy, because we are the life energy in the earth. We are Elohim. We are God in the earth, and there is no balance without the not only recognition, but the embracing and the living out, the walking the walk, talking the talk of who we are. That is what brings balance. That is what allows us to have comfort in the midst of chaos. That's what allows us to see order in the midst of chaos. That's what allows us to see life in the midst of death. That gives us opportunity to recognize that our presence in the universe is more powerful than our minds could ever be without the assistance of our soul. Our soul is clearly the energy of our Creator that's been instilled in us for the express purpose of being creators. And the way that we are creators is by embracing that universal energy, by embracing the essence of the light that brought us into existence, by becoming that light because we embrace it, and in doing so are able to transform the minds, the hearts of those who have created instruments of death and have brought into existence imperialism, colonialism, those things which seeks to control / destroy humanity, with the especially seeking to obliterate the cultural beliefs, the cultural reality of the African, not realizing that the cultural reality of the African can never be destroyed because the cultural reality of the African is God itself. And God cannot be destroyed. However, those who seek to destroy God will be destroyed. Not destroyed in terms of their bodies being obliterated, but destroyed in terms of their evilness of being transformed into righteousness. Their evilness being self-destructive to them if they choose not to follow the pathway that has been laid out and is being laid out by our Creator. In this earth realm, we are the pathway. We are not only the pathway, we are the ones who travel this pathway, leading humanity through this pathway. We also are not only not only have a seat at the table, we are the seat at the table, we are the table, and we are everything that is necessary for humanity to be brought to a place of balance, peace, and harmony. I'm done for now. Thank you. Questions, comments?
I think one of the things I thought about, Pastor, when you were talking, is the words of the ambassador, and I cannot remember her name, so please forgive me in that regard. But one of the things she said when she mentioned the borders in Africa and being one nation, the interview asked her about different countries, and she said, we are one voice. That is what we're talking about here. That's an example of what we're talking about now. When you recognize the power that you're, not power as in I'm mightier than you, but the power is I am one with all that is. And you understand that there is no division. We are responsible for each other, and we walk in that light. That is the enlightenment that we walk in. And that empowers you far beyond what we have understood and see in religion. Because if you think about it, we as a group on this phone move past a lot of the understanding that we were reared in coming up through religion. And that is no coincidence that as we study this, the Creator.
Would you mute your phone, please? Garage door.
The Creator put us on a path to seek truth and into the words that are written on the page. And all along, we've been able to pull truth out of the stories and the manipulations of it. So if not for that and that sincere desire to be who we are, we would not be at this point right now. And that is why the journey has taken the path that it has, and for us to see things in bits and pieces and pull them together and made us quest for more, and that has moved us to the place we are now. I don't know if that just came to me when Pastor was talking. I don't know if that helps any at all. But anyway.
Yeah, good morning,
I can
Ron.
see that. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ron, on Monday, when you had mentioned about the scripture you gave us and you mentioned about Jesus, and we talked about nature, I was pondering that all this week, and what it made me give thought to was taking my mind off the person, Jesus, but looking at the nature, looking at the cosmic consciousness, looking at earth consciousness, looking at the organic consciousness in terms of the spirit teaching. And I think for a period of time, it was always what would Jesus do, or looking at the person, but not looking at the spirit in the way that we're looking at it now. So I think that really had me to reflect a little bit in terms of not just emphasizing Jesus, but emphasizing the spirit of the person, if that makes sense and resonates. I'm done.
It does indeed, George. It opens you up to a whole new place of accountability. And with that comes that desire to become. and to see ourselves, because this makes it personal. You know, it is not the God of here or the word of God. It was, I am everything. It becomes everything to you in a different way. It opens the eye, literally opens the eye. I agree with you. Thank you.
The way we were taught to reverence this entity that was created called Jesus was really idolatry. Because it was like, Jesus, we bless you. It was, Jesus, you are the one who saves our soul. And all we saw in doing that was a man. It was never, we were never really given a true understanding of the spiritual essence of what all that meant. However, the African developed it on its own because there was something in us brought with us from our home that never left us. And that is, this cannot be a man. This has to be spiritual. Even though we could not articulate it, we knew that it was something different than what we were being taught. And now we're beginning to see what that difference is. In regards to the ambassador who spoke, it was something I saw in that as well when she spoke about being one Africa, that we are not different nations, we are one voice. What I also saw in that is when you look at the whole thing of Juneteenth or any other day that is representative of the African in terms of a holiday, we see every color, red, white, and blue. We see green, yellow, and red, but we don't see red, black, and green. When red, black, and green is the symbol, the flag of Pan-Africanism, meaning that Africans are Africans regardless of where they are. And this is representative of Africans, period, that speak with one voice. That is done purposely. It's done for the same reason that Greenville had a white man and a white woman on his posters representing the beginning of Juneteenth last year. It is an express, it is purpose to minimize the possibilities of us seeing ourselves as one. Subliminally, when we see that green, yellow, and red as opposed to red, black, and green, subliminally, it means nothing to us. But the red, black, and green triggers something, because from the day that Marcus Garvey set that into motion, it has not lost its luster for those who are searching for who we are as Africans. It has always maintained that flow of energy that Marcus Garvey and others attributed to it. That energy that was so fervent in New York in the early 20s when they embraced it as our flag. It may sound simple and it may sound more historical than spiritual, but it really isn't, because the energy that you give to something is reflective of the life of that object, meaning that the one voice that the ambassador spoke of is represented by that red, black, and green. There is no Nigeria. There is no Kenya. There is Africa and Africans. Excuse me. There is no Africa in terms of a landmass without Africa in terms of spirituality. That is the essence, that the whole of Africa is the garden of life itself. It is the garden that's called Eden, or the garden of spiritual pleasure. The whole of that, and those who were raised up from its soil are embodied with that spiritual essence that's in this cradle of life itself. So when we look at that physical flag, we are seeing a physical representation of a deep spiritual truth that will forever exist with us. And the more we move forward, the more we will begin to see that Pan-Africanism is not an effort or an ideology that seeks to divide. Based on the ambassador's statements, Pan-Africanism is an ideology that seeks to lead humanity from its place of spiritual destitution to a place of spiritual reality. Thank you.
And
Questions, anybody? Questions, comments?
yeah, I can add the red, black, and green is also it's been used in many places, but it's also the Palestinian flag. Which is why, having had these conversations, it makes me believe that what is happening now with the resistance to the genocide in Palestine is as a result of the use of those symbols and what they mean. It is the sort of global resistance to the colonial and sort of dominating energy of the confusion of white supremacy and etc. coming out of the quote unquote European mindset. And I think that though people may not be conscious of that necessarily, that because it is such a sort of rallying point for anyone who does not want to see that mindset of domination be perpetuated, it is very much symbolic of the battle that is being taken place spiritually against that mindset. And I believe it is a sign of the times in that the resistance is so widespread in younger generations in particular, in that we are seeing the beginning of and we have been seeing, but we are seeing a widespread adoption of the mindset that saves humanity from itself, in a sense, by resisting this self-destructive, dominating mindset that is on its way out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is this all making sense, y'all?
It does. To me, I have another question if no one else does.
Okay.
They talk about the sun is going to get even hotter. The rays from the sun is going to get even hotter, and I can tell that the rays are different than it was last year. Because I'm always outside. But anyway, the hotter the rays are, does that activate? We talked about activation on Monday. Does that activate our pineal gland when the sun rays touch us? And does the solar plexus represent the sun that is within us? Two questions, yeah.
Are you talking
That's
about
my
represent
question.
the light that's in us?
Yes, sir.
I can also help with that, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. To answer your question, yes. In terms of the energetic body, the thing that is energized by the sun the most is, in my understanding anyway, the energy center or the chakra that sits at the solar plexus, because that energy center behaves a similar way within our own body as the sun does in our solar system. It is the point from which energy is distributed and radiated to other parts of the body after we receive it. So the pineal gland is related to that whole process.
Nick, hold 1 second, please. Nick,
Yeah.
hold 1 second, please. 775, would you please mute your phone? Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. The pineal gland is very much related to this whole process, but it is, so everything receives energy from spirit, but I think in terms of what the pineal gland resonates more specifically with, it is not, in my understanding anyway, so obviously the sun and what that represents. It is more subtle, I think, but in terms of the general makeup of our body, spiritually and energetically, yes, what we receive as energy is radiated through the rest of us, through the solar plexus in particular, because it is the sun within our own body's sort of internal solar system. And as always, it happens on a physical level when the sun's rays are intensified, but it is always sort of our responsibility to match our awareness with the nature of the vibration and energy that we are receiving so that we can use it on a greater than just a physical level. However, even the physical effects have positive effects. But hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
That makes sense. I hear you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Or whoever was about to talk, you can go ahead before I do. Thank you.
Go ahead, George. Go ahead. I was just about to say something. Go ahead. It's okay.
One of the things that will activate your pineal gland or pineal gland and just activate in your arena is and before I give you the answer, what is your greatest attribute?
I think you're cutting out. We didn't hear that.
What is the greatest attribute that we all possess? Whether the sun is shining or whether the moon is in effect, it doesn't matter what arena that we're in. What's the greatest attribute that we have that will affect our pineal gland? That was the question. Okay, if you don't know, it's your smile. Your smile is your greatest attribute that you possess. When you smile, it shows a degree of confidence, it shows a degree of arrogance, and it makes you more acquaintable. So the greatest attribute that we have in bringing balance to humanity, trust me, it's not academia. It's not money. It's not the biggest house. It's not the best attire. It is your smile. So if you want to activate your pineal gland, or if you want to change any kind of situation that can affect you, can affect others, it will be based upon how often you smile. So in a comparative degree with religion will take your smile away from you. Spirituality, it forces you to smile. So does the sun have an effect on energy? Yes. Does the moon have an effect on energy? Yet if there is no sun at that particular time, your smile can activate your pineal gland. Thank you.
I know how powerful the smile is because it can bring about healing for you as well as those around you. It can change the ambience or in a setting. It can change the heart of people who, in the beginning, actually sought harm for you. However, I believe that the greatest activation for the pineal gland is desire. When we have a desire to know who we are, when we have a unfettered desire for light itself, for enlightenment, then that puts us in a place where things begin to happen within us as a result of our spiritual desires that we are not aware of. And what I mean by that is when we embarked on this journey many years ago, we had no idea where we were being carried in terms of traveling this journey. Yet, each time that we came back together, we were able to recognize that we were in a different place, not realizing that the totality of that journey that took us to a different place was predicated upon our desire to know who we are, which means that translated into a desire for the pineal gland or for the eye to be opened for the benefit of humanity. And that was totally based upon our desires without our knowledge. And it definitely, as you stated, George, had nothing to do with academics or material possessions. Because academically, the third eye doesn't exist academically. Materially, you don't need the third eye. Only thing you need is your wisdom to get anything you want, regardless of how you get it. Those things are totally antithetical to our journey in terms of what we were searching for, and with balance for humanity. I'm done. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Anyone else? Question or comment?
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon.
Sheldon.
Hello. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to say it, but thinking in terms of everything that has been said and over the last few lessons as well, with the SUN and the SON. And as Pastor Richard talks about that desire, well, first, before we even get there, I definitely have to say I definitely concur with Pastor Evelyn. I was thinking it very loudly, I guess, over here within myself about your intentions when, in a sense, you gave reverence to the SON or Jesus before we, in a sense, for lack of better words, knew better. You still were exercising that recognition, even though it was misguided, in a sense, from outwardly, inwardly, you still had that recognition, and there was a sense of a spark as well. In terms of the SUN, I think of it as being a physical, or the physical, in terms of this realm, the physical manifestation of the Creator that actually, as has been stated, provides and gives life, or the source for life from a physical standpoint. And not necessarily giving it reverence, but understanding once you stop looking at the SON and SUN, understanding a bigger part of understanding of the Creator and creation, and it fills in. It's not just a segment, but you understand individually and collectively where you are and how you work, in a sense of who and what we are from it, and that comes about from that desire. So, for example, when Nick mentioned the rays from the sun being used to power and balance our chakras, which are the lower chakras, when we operate and have practice with that, have an understanding of that, realize and understand that we too are a creator and we too are the source of energy in this physical manifestation in the same exact way. And once actually balancing and understanding that as well, then in a sense tap in, and as Pastor Richard was talking about, the pineal gland not even being needed in a physical realm, can tap in and balance and operate in those other chakras with awareness as well from a spiritual standpoint, therefore bypassing, in a sense, just the physical realm and having the experiences even greater from a spiritual standpoint. If there are any questions, please ask, because I'm just actually getting that out in words. I'm finished.
Thank you, Sheldon. I thought that was clear. I appreciate that. Any questions about what Sheldon said? And Nick, for that matter, any questions or comments?
I have a sort of question, I think. So,
Okay.
in our explanation of understanding sun versus sun, can I equate it to, like, if I cause a ripple in a pond, I'm impacting all the energy throughout the universe? Is that how? That's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yes, you are the receiver and giver of energy, and I think what a disservice was done when we were only thinking about the sun as S-O-N, is it kind of like made us or made the creator in man form with a sense of arrogance, but what that also did was it cut off our deal and understanding of what the creator is. It cut us off from nature. There was a sense of superiority and therefore a limiting effect in terms of what we could even see and understand and actually notice the greater part that we actually played in all of this. One thing, how should I say this? You're more compassionate and have more of an intentional effect, if you want to say positive or whatever, or more creative and nurturing like. Once you actually have an appreciation or for something, and it's impossible to actually do that from a standpoint of arrogance or superiority. So even in doing that, there's an aspect of the creator that you're, in a sense, and I'm saying all or at one, is looking down upon, which then cuts you off from tapping in the sense of being a creator if you at the same time looking down on a part of creator. It'd be the same, there's no difference from some type of self-hate that one might have. They hate a physical feature or a certain aspect of themselves, etc. They're not embracing that. They're not showing appreciation for that particular thing. Did I answer your question, or did I get too far off?
Actually, you answered it, and you're making me think past my answer. So thank you. I need that to sit with me for a minute about. So I receive energy and I give energy. I believe I understand that. How I process the energy that's coming in and energy that's going out, being aware or not aware, for lack of a better word, being more or less compassionate, can alter that energy I'm giving out. Is that correct in
you're
my thinking there?
absolutely- No, you're absolutely right. You're giving it out. And but when we talk about, which is funny, you're giving a great explanation when we just mentioned that this is not just an academic exercise. The energy that we give out is not just the energy that we necessarily think about, like we're Professor X off the X-Men. Is what, in a sense, the word I'm looking for. When Nick was talking about the chakras, when we talk about the matters of the heart, we talk about the internal feelings that we actually have. Those internal feelings that we have, all that is within us, is a result of where we are at in a particular moment. We talk about balancing chakras. We're talking about different situations that you might encounter or we do encounter on a regular basis, how that makes us feel inside, which then results in how we actually feel and how react. Say, for example, when someone has just come out of meditation, they're probably calm and will react to a situation a lot different than someone who is completely aggravated and annoyed. It's not to say that any of it in itself in particular is bad. It is to say that the way that we react to those things, that gives off energy. We're not even at this particular moment, let's not label any energy is bad or negative, but that is what we, in a sense, put out in the world. We are constantly doing that. Everyone is doing that. That has always actually been the case. That is our sun rays, in a sense.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. Hope that helped a lot of people. Is everybody okay? We're making sense here?
I think that going back to what George and Philly said as well, when he was talking about Jesus, the man versus Jesus, the spirit, definitely think there was a disservice in the, and I'm saying this not just to beat on religion and what was taught. I'm saying this for us to take something from it, or for everyone to look at it in a different way. We were so caught up because we were taught what Jesus actually did in terms of how, like, Jesus would handle a particular certain situation versus looking at the inner workings, the inner work that was done, and like how or why or what did Jesus do to be at that particular point to react in certain ways. A lot of times, the end result, in a sense, of what actually happened, I don't want to say it could be misleading. In terms of understanding, it can leave a lot to be desired, when actually what we're talking about is what all that took place, that story that ended in that particular result that we are actually seeing. How he handled the situation, what was done to get to that point, what drove him internally to react in that particular way. I'm finished.
I have a question, if no one else does.
You don't have to
So
qualify.
the fast food, I'm sorry?
I just say you don't have to qualify. Go ahead and ask your question, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So the fast food that religion gave us ignited, it was necessary? That's my question. So the fast food that religion gave us, it ignited, it was necessary. Let me stop there.
I would love to.
You can think about it from this standpoint. That was funny. Same. You can think about it from this standpoint. In a sense, be free. And what I mean by be free is that I don't this is what I'm about to say. We overcame that. And so it served its purpose, And believe me, that I used to be very, very, very upset of the Bible in general when I first joined Foundation in 2009, and I found out that a lot of stuff that I was taught in the Bible was wrong. I actually basically had a hatred for the Bible because I didn't believe in it. I thought that I had just been lied to my entire life. However, you understand that there's still light in everything, and then you understand, okay, this is the truth. This is the part that resonates within myself. I'm not just holding on to this particular thing because I was told to believe this particular thing. I actually feel and understand the difference of me having a connection to this particular idea or thing. And it seems like it is rooted in me in a sense. It doesn't seem like it was something from the outside. So it is those things in a sense where you can draw the nutrients from. And
Did I lose?
Sheldon,
Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds.
we lost you, Sheldon. I guess he's still lost.
hello, I'm back in. I apologize. For some reason, when I call in exactly at 30 minutes, my phone cuts out and I have to call back in. I don't know why. But as I was saying, let those things of the truth that you see, focus on that and the nutrients in that, and actually grow from that. It also, if you want to look at it from a positive standpoint, it helps that, in a sense, like even us being on this call, understanding the roots or whatever, and being able to actually meet people where they are as well. So there's always light in everything. I'm finished.
Thank you. But Calvin's question, and I agree with you, Sheldon. I do believe that that it was very necessary for religion to come into existence. When you look at what religion actually did, if you look at the beginnings, what you see is that there was substance in the beginning, but there was no form to the substance. There was spiritual substance in the beginning, but there was no material form to it. And the light of all lights, the creator of everything that is, desired physical form to be brought into existence by spiritual desire. And that spiritual desire brought into existence all the physical forms that we are experiencing, including our bodies. And there was a governing body, a governing people in the earth to govern the material world. But in order to govern the material world, those who were embodied, those spiritual beings who were embodied in the earth, had to bring into existence a sense of, for lack of a better word, normality for those physical forms. And normality in this sense, speaking to being in unison with spirituality, as above, so is below. In order for that to happen, those embodied gods had to have substance from which to create. And that substance that was given for creation was actually dysfunctionality. If you think about 4.5 million years ago, the first physical human entered the earth. And if you look at how long that physical entity called human was in the earth prior to the dysfunctionality of the earth, you will see that this dysfunctionality in the earth came into existence roughly about 8,000 years ago, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. So when you look at the time frame from the existence of normality in the earth to the period of dysfunctionality, then the question becomes, was functionality so prevalent? Why would the creator of everything that is allow this functionality to interrupt this flow? Well, in order for as above, so is below to be real, there had to be something created by this physical essence of the creator, meaning that the creator had brought everything spiritual into existence and had also brought into existence everything that's physical or material. And the human that was brought into this material world was God, who was to govern over this material and this material earth. And it did that for millions of years. And then all of a sudden it's interrupted. Interrupted why? Because in order for this entity to remain or to be Elohim, it had to create in his image and likeness. And the image and likeness that it had to create in was not limited to bringing into this earth every group of people on the face of the earth. Because as we all know, every group of people on the face of the earth emanated from the African. So this idea of created in image and likeness was creating functionality in the midst of dysfunctionality. And this attitude of colonialism, racism, or this attitude of greed was allowed to come into the earth as a substance for the God of this earth to create in his image and likeness. And here we are now bringing into existence this creation in the image and likeness of the God of the earth. And that image and likeness does not pertain to physical appearance, but it pertains to spiritual being, spiritual essence, spiritual reality, spiritual acceptance. And this is taking place as we speak. The efforts of hatred towards those who are dysfunctional or hatred or created racism or brought into existence all of these other isms against us have been approached from a material space, approached in the wrong way, approached through politics, approached through anger, approached through hatred, approached through history, mind, and spirituality. Now that it is being approached through spirituality, we are in a space now where we are bringing functionality into this material world. And in doing so, we will be one with the one who created everything that is. Our objective is to make sure that this material world emulates the spiritual world, meaning that these physical beings or this material world does not interfere with the spiritual essence of what is. And it is the original created material being in the earth that is to bring that into existence. And that's where we are right now. When we talk about bringing balance and harmony to the earth, we're talking about bringing functionality to the earth without regard to the dysfunctional personalities that seemingly dominates the earth at this period of time. So it is necessary for us to keep our focus on loving kindness and on purpose. Purpose meaning bringing into this earth an attitude of righteousness, an attitude of justice, an attitude of unicity with our Creator, an attitude of unicity with each other. That is our purpose for being here. And that has been the purpose from the beginning. This slight interruption with our functionality is simply for us to correct. And when you think about just a few thousand years ago versus a few million years ago, it is simply a blip on the radar of this material world being brought to a state rather of balance as it was to be from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is Barbara. That resonated so much with me. My husband and I were sitting on outside the other morning, and we're listening to the birds. And I was saying that I heard about 7 different sounds that the birds were making. And then one bird flew through, and John said, well, that's a mockingbird. You know, a mockingbird is called a mockingbird because it mocks other birds. In other words, the sounds that other birds make, it can mock and emulate that sound. I said, well, what does a mockingbird really sound like in and of itself? And he said, well, a mockingbird, I'm told that its sound is much more pure and much more beautiful if it bees itself. In other words, if it were authentic to itself and not trying to emulate the other birds, if it was exhibiting its own spiritual essence only, it was a lot more beautiful than a lot of those sounds. And so what you just said reminded me of what harmony is all about. That if everything was authentic to itself, if all of this dysfunction began to be authentic to what it was created to be, then that's where we have the harmony. That's when we all are aligned with those things, whether it's plants or animals, whatever. We're all aligned. Everything is true to its being. And so that's what functionality is, being true to what you created to be and not trying to be something that you're not, if that resonates. Thanks.
It does indeed. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Love that. Love that. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think,
Sir?
go ahead.
No, Jeff, go ahead, Pastor. You have something.
I think our authentic self, as Barbara was speaking of, is being purged of who we have been taught to believe we are, being purged of all of the doctrines that's antithetical to divine belief systems, wisdom, love, peace, those are attributes. Being true to authentic self has no room for hatred or even dislike of people. Being authentic self has no room for the dominance of academics over spirituality, has no place in the heart for greed over altruism. Authentic self is what the ambassador spoke of at Kabbalah. Is a Kabbalah, whether it's in a landmass or whether it's those who rose from the landmass being scattered around the world, as it was supposed to be from the beginning, when the African begins to think as one, to function as one, to speak as one. That's our authentic self speaking. And that in itself brings balance, brings harmony. When we have, as Barbara mentioned about the mockingbird, when we have purity of speech as opposed to speech that has been contaminated by our desire to replicate the voice, the thinking patterns of those who are the colonizers and manipulators of humanity. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. I have a question, and maybe, but we may be at a good place to pause because what Nick and Sheldon and Pastor and Barbara have said, I think has brought a lot of clarity and give us something to ponder on. I want to ask this question though, and maybe we can pick up here tomorrow if because I think it's a good place to stop if you guys agree with me. If not, we can keep going. But
I agree with you, Ron. Go ahead and ask your question. I do think it's a good place to pause, but we got a lot to sit with.
Throughout this study, how do you see the Creator? How do you see God, the entity we call God? We were taught to worship Jesus. Religion taught us that. And how that shaped inside of us is there's a collective part and an individual part. Where we are now, looking at this thing, I remember you guys heard me talk about the little boy who sat on the porch. And I remember I used to ask my mom to hurry up and let me get dressed so I could go outside. And she knew where I was going. And I would sit there because I wanted to get there early enough to see the morning glories open. You know, if a lot of you don't remember morning glory flower that used to open at sunrise. And I remember sitting on my knees by that tree, watching those morning glories open, and how beautiful that was, how harmonious that was, although I didn't know it at the time. What if, in our understanding of the sun and oneness, God was never meant to be worshipped the way we were taught? So what do we see now in what Sheldon and Pastor and Barb explained in that unity? Is that a part of worship? Is that what truly being one with the Creator, is that the worship that we're intended to do and not separate ourselves into something else? I don't know, I'm getting mixed up now. But just a thought. Because if the image of Jesus was false, then the image we had of the Creator was affected by that as well. Mm-hmm. But there's also something embedded in us that we are being invited to connect to, and just how all of that fits and looks to you now. Is my question. Was I rambling?
No, you're not rambling. I think it's a good question for tomorrow because, right, you take us a lot of places.
Yeah.
A good question.
Taking me some places right now.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, George. Yeah. So I do think tomorrow will be great.
And remember, guys, no class Monday. Okay, just want to remind everybody of that. Okay. If there are no more thoughts and comments, look forward to tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.